People lose respect for youth. These aren't just harmless quirks, they're behaviors that can seriously undermine your reputation and your relationships. You might be thinking, everyone has bad habits, and you're right, but the habits we're discussing today are particularly harmful because they strike the core of how we interact with others. They can turn a promising friendship or professional relationships. Sounding time to give this topic a personal touch, I'm going to share some of my own experiences. Trust me, I've made plenty of mistakes along the way and have learned a lot from them. These stories are bitter and honest, but I believe sharing them will help us all grow. By recognizing and overcoming these habits, we can start living a life full of dignity and respect. We'll be drawing on the teachings of Stoicism and ancient philosophy that offers timeless advice for living a virtuous and fulfilling life. Stoicism is about more than just enduring hardships with a stiff upper lip. It's about cultivating inner peace, integrity, and resiliences. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and let's dive in ready. Let's get in time. Oh, I have number one, gossiping. Let's get real about gossiping. It's one of those habits that almost everyone indulges in, but no one wants to admit. It used to be a huge gossip, and took a lot of painfulness and realized just how damaging. It was when I was in college. Gossiping was practically a sport. My friends and I would sit around for hours dissecting every little detail of other people's lives. At first, it felt harmless, even fun. It made you feel connected, like we were in on some exclusive secret. But the truth is, gossiping is a toxic habit that can destroy trust and respect. There's astery. I'm not proud of this girl in our group, let's call her Millie. She was a bit different, quirky, introverted. Didn't always fit in. One day, I found out she had a crush on a guy who was, let's say, way out of her league. Instead of keeping that information to myself, I shared it with my friends about it, and the story spread like wildfire. It wasn't long before Emily found out what we'd been saying. The look on her face when she realized that her personal feelings had become a joke was heartbreaking. She stopped coming around and eventually she left the group entirely. At the time, I brushed it off, but deep down I knew I'd crossed a line. The Stoics, like Epictetus, teach us to focus on our own character and not meddle in the affairs of others. When you gossip, you're not only wasting time, but also poisoning the well of trust. Keep silence for the most part, and speak only when you must stand. Then briefly, Epictetus, gossiping erodes trust. When you engage in people start to wonder what you say about them and behind their backs. It creates an environment of suspicion and betrayal. I learned this the way when my own words came back. Can't haunt me. Another incident happened at my first job. I had a coworker, let's call him John, who was incredibly diligent, but a bit of a one day. I found out through the grapevine that John had a pretty serious health issue. Instead of respecting his privacy, I told a few colleagues, thinking it would make for an interesting conversation. John found out, of course. He confronted Menno angrily, but with a look of deep hurt and disappointment, had told me that had trusted me with that information, thinking I would be discreet. From that day on, our working relationship was never the same. I had lost this respect and trust, and it was entirely my fault. This experience taught me a critical lesson: respect other people's privacy. Everyone has their battles and vulnerabilities. By turning someone's personal life into fodder for conversation, you not only disrespect them, but also reveal a lack of integrity in yourself. The Stoics believed in uplifting and constructive conversations. Instead of gossiping, focus on positive dialogue that builds people up rather than tearing them down. Remember, if someone is willing to gossip to you, they're just as likely to gossip about you. Habit number 2, being unreliable. Let's talk about being unreliable. This one hits home for a lot of people, and it's a habit that can seriously erode respect. Reliability is foundational to any relationship, whether personal or professional. If people can't count on you, they'll quickly lose respect for you. I've got a personal story about this in my early 20s who was known among my friends as the flaky one. I would make plans and then cancel last minute or just not show up at all. Thought it was no big deal, life was busy, right? But one incident really opened my eyes. A close friend of mine, Sarah, was there. A Winga birthday party. She'd gone all out planning for weeks, organizing every detail of permissed together, but on the day of the party, I got caught up in something else and decided not to go. It didn't even bother to let her know until hours after the event had started. When I finally called her, it could hear the disappointment in her voice as she didn't say much, but it knew leather down our friendship was never quite the same. After that, she stopped inviting meta things, and we drifted apart. Being unreliable tells people that your word means nothing. If you say you'll do so, nothing do it. If you promise to be somewhere, there it's about showing that respect other people's time and effort. Another example is from my professional life. Early in my career, had a habit of overcommitting and under-delivering. I'd agreed to take on projects and then miss deadlines, often without warning. It hurt my charm, and excuses would smooth things over, but my boss wasn't amused. During a performance review, she laid it out bluntly: your work is good when you do it, but your lack of reliable ability is a problem. People don't know if they can count on you. It was a harsh web call. Reliability isn't just about showing up. It's about consistency and integrity. When you commit to something, you're putting your reputation on the line. Every time you flake out, you chip away at the trust others shove in you. So how to fix this? First, be honest with yourself about what you can and can't do. To overcommit, if you make a promise, keep it. Communicate proactively. If something comes up and you can't follow, show that you value other people's time as much as your own. By being reliable, you earn their respect and trust of those around you. It's a simple but powerful way to strengthen your relationships and build a solid reputation. Habit number 3, interrupting others. This one is controversial because so many people do it without even realizing it. But let's be real, constantly interrupting others is a huge enough disrespect. It says, what I have to say is more important than what you're saying. It's a habit that not only frustrates people, but also makes them feel undervalued and unheard. It used to be a chronic interrupter. It thought it showed enthusiasm and intelligence, but in reality, it's how to lack of respect. And Pence, here's a personal story that drove this point home for me. In one of my yearly jobs, she was part of a team that had weekly brainstorming sessions. So it was eager to impress, so I'd constantly jump in with my ideas, often cutting people off mid-sentence. At hot I was being proactive, but my coworkers saw it differently. One day during a particularly intense meeting, my manager stopped the discussion and addressed Mem directly. You need to let people finish their thoughts, she said bluntly. You're not listening, you're just waiting for your turn to speak. I was embarrassed, but it didn't end. Thereafter the meeting, a colleague pulled me aside and said, do you even realize how dismissive you come across? It's like you think your ideas are the only ones that matter. That hit me hard. I didn't see myself as dismissive, but clearly that's I was perceived. Interrupting others is more than just rude. It shows a lack of self-control and respect. The Stoics valued listening and understanding over speaking. Seneca advises us to be patient and considerate in our conversations.